Hello and welcome to the Inside Integration Podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Jayson Savage with my also host, my partner, Chris Barlo.
Hello.
Chris. We are here this week with our good friend, Mr. Rich Holien. I wanted to make sure I say that right. Rich, welcome.
Thanks, Jason. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you on, man. We had an earlier episode where we talked to Joseph, and a lot of people in the industry know who Joseph is around the entire country, right? He's one of those personalities at Screen Innovations that a lot of people recognize when they look to the booth. But you, being our Western Regional Sales Director, are much closer to us here at Oliver Marketing,
Yeah, you're
and
you're our dude. You're our guy.
yeah, you're our guy, exactly. And we wanted to have you on to talk about, some other angles of Screen Innovations. Talk to the dealers directly about, some of the direction that you've got, some of your experience, and really just kind of chop it up here with you on a personal level because, main focus of this podcast, by and large, overreaching our, I would say, direction is we want to have those conversations that you'd have, at the buying group shows after hours or off the floor, something like that, where it's not always a sales pitch. We want to talk about you as a person. We want to talk about some of the philosophies and all that good stuff that go along with the characters that make up our wonderful industry.
Right. The funner side of the job. There's the fun side and then the funner side.
Yeah, that I'm a fan of the saying, nobody dies on the operating table of audio video. So, and that's just kind of like one small portion of what this industry is all about, right? But by and large, to you said, like you said, this is fun stuff. This is not life and death stuff. This is the things that make our lives better, more enjoyable, and Screen Innovations, and you have a lot of experience with all of that. So that's part of why we wanted to have you on today.
Awesome. Thank you. Glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, it was really great to see at Lightapalooza, and obviously we've spent a couple of episodes so far talking about Lightapalooza, and it's just one of those things that kind of keeps on growing. It was great to see you there. It was great to see SI there because you guys are absolutely related to lighting and home stuff, and it made perfect sense. And again, you and Kim, it was great. What did you like that you saw at Lightapalooza? From one vendor to as from that perspective, kind of taking a look around. Like what did you dig that you saw?
I really like lighting. Lighting's another love of mine, as well as shading and audio and theaters. I mean, I have a lot of loves in this industry, but um, you know, being stuck at one booth, and I stay stuck. I say stuck, but it's definitely a choice. But staying in one booth, my ADD's just going nuts because I want to get out there and just squirrel all over the floor and just see what's there. Because growing up in the industry and going to CEDIA for the past 10 years plus, just being able to go run around and see everything, I do miss that a little bit. But um, Black Nova, I think, was their booth was gorgeous and their products are very beautiful and they presented very well. So I could see them kind of down the aisle from me, and just they got a lot of booth traffic, as did we too. Um, so that would be one. And then Ketra's always a show, right? I could see them across the way as well, and they had all the lights going and stuff.
Hard to miss the 9,000 pound gorilla in the little conference room at the hotel, right? But yeah, really, I agree with you, Rich. There was some pretty cool vendors and some cool stuff to see. That Black Nova booth was packed, and
Jamming all day.
for a keypad, we'll just put it into basic terms, right? Ostensibly a keypad company, the level of interest and the amount of traffic for that particular product was crazy, and I was happy to see you guys there as well. Weren't a lot of competitors that I would have thought would have made the investment or the time to show up there. So I think that behooves not only of you but also SI paying attention to what's going on in the channel.
Yeah.
It definitely, it really shows that you guys are kind of into it, and to have, some of the really cool SI stuff, the Revolve stuff, and to be
Yeah,
able
I
to
want to
show.
talk about all of those cool things.
Yeah, that was great to see in person. You guys absolutely do, great when it comes to shows and that sort of thing, because what you produce is very tactile, very, very neat, especially, the double helix curtain rod that'll make you cross-eyed when you look at it, and all of these things. And, again, it was just great to see you there, and see ISI kind of support that side of the market, because you guys are very much in it. And, we certainly appreciate it.
Being a screen company too, we were talking about how to set up the booth at Lightapalooza, and we're like, well, what if we bring a screen and we show that? And I'm like, well, let's be strategic about it. We don't want to show up and present as just a screen company. So sure. We agreed on doing a short throw lift in the back with a projector onto it. And the strategy was to put the revolve rod on the screen and have a viewing demo of it, because we didn't quite have the space in the 10x10 to set up a full working demo of it. So showing the screen and showing Revolve on the screen was our hook, and it definitely worked. I'd see people walking across and they'd look over and be like,
what is that?
Nice.
That's pretty cool. I like that. So it definitely helped. It reeled them in.
Yeah. So for those of you that are doing the audio portion of this podcast, you got to check out the video podcast so you can see Rich's telegraphing of their reaction, because it's very similar to my reaction. It's like, what is, you kind of get cross-eyed, like Chris said, like, what is that? What did I just see? Can you do that again? Yeah, really cool.
It'd be great if you guys could figure out what the mathematical formula is, so that when somebody stares at it at a trade show, it just implants the thought in their brain, like Inception style, to like,
I like
more
that
of this stuff, right? Like, just, it's this little hypnosis thing, and
super cool.
Suddenly the most popular product in CI overnight.
Just to circle back to your booth, that, I mean, you guys packed a lot of stuff into a 10x10, like the revolve curtain rod, the short throw screen, the projector, and you had all of the cassettes and the different parts and pieces for your shading product. So, I mean, yeah, and good kudos to you. Like, I guess, I'm kind of dumb. I had to process all of that, and like, just thinking about the way you described it now, I'm like, man, those guys really nailed it. So yeah, good job on that.
All of that, all of the awesome product, plus seats, which on a trade show floor, I mean,
yeah, they're
the golden. Fact that you guys had a place to like sit and have a conversation was A+.
Yeah, and the bowl of candy was important for me too, because when it got slow, I could finally reach in for a Hershey's.
That's right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you gotta stay fed and sugared up for those long trade show days. I may know a little bit about that. So yeah, I was going to say too, you weren't stuck in the booth. You were anchored in the booth. That's right. There's the industry term.
Holding down the fort.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Like, oh yeah, I'm here with somebody else who I haven't seen for the entire duration of the show, and it's just me. So okay, great.
Yeah, awesome. Love it. So Rich, we talked to you a little bit about being our guy. You've been the SI guy now for how long?
Just a short 10 months, really.
10 months. So yeah, your tenure at Screen Innovations probably mirrors my tenure at Oliver Marketing, just by a little longer, by a couple of months. But you came from the integrator ranks, right? You came from a successful firm in Arizona, is that right?
Yep.
So can you maybe tell our audience a little bit about what you think you're bringing to the game in this position? Obviously, some industry understanding, but I'd love to hear in your words kind of your perspective on how you approach your job function in this role.
Yeah, I think to summarize first is understanding. As a dealer, we deal with a lot of things, and at the company I came from, there was a lot of growth through the 10 years I was there, all the way from just a few of us to almost 50 of us when I departed. So I was able to see and be a part of and build all those changes throughout. And that came with different manufacturers to support, different type of clientele. So as I'm out there talking to dealers and working with you guys when we're on these trips, being able to think back when we were at a certain level or working through a certain problem or just making all these technologies work together, it usually ends up being a talking point, either between that or how the business is running and functioning. We talk about software a lot. So it's actually a lot of fun to have those conversations from this side and be able to speak on it and not have to be so close to it.
Yeah, there's different levels to it, right? The different layers to the onion, or however you want to put that. So yeah, I think my experience sort of mirrors yours. I was in a van for 16 years, right? And this show isn't about me, but similar approach to how I deal with customers and how I deal with end users. Hey, I've stood in a person's living room before. I've had to have those weird conversations at night. So I feel like yeah, it's 9 o'clock. I'm still here. Help. That's what I mean by those weird conversations.
Yep. Calling tech support,
help,
trying to get parts delivered, making promises that you're not sure if you can deliver on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I have to say this from my experience, you guys have been pretty good about delivering on promises. And, I know that's part of your job function, but again, just kudos to you guys for the improvements and stuff you guys are making there.
Yeah, thank you. Work in progress still for sure, but the improvements are happening every day. So
right.
Yeah, from a manufacturer side, it is definitely, having again been on the other side of the fence, just like Jayson. It's when you can approach the situation with the empathy for the guy who is like literally been stuck in a basement, sitting on a bucket all day, trying to, strip out a rack or do whatever. That's definitely a thing that not a lot of folks on the non-field side of the fence kind of get. And to be able to bring that into a situation where, yeah, let me do everything that I possibly can to try and get you out of the situation that you're in. That's that's definitely meaningful, I think, and a lot of folks just don't understand it. Like there's no pressure, there's no pressure like the client sitting on his couch while you're trying to figure out, why does this picture not want to come up? Is it the length of the HDMI? Is it my balun? Is it whatever? And client's not saying a word. They're just sitting there silently judging you for the last 3 hours because they got nothing else going on.
They want you out of there, but so they want to see when you're going to leave.
Right. Their friends are at the door to like show off what you did, and they want to let them in, but they can't because you're still there. The
question, can I watch you do this?
No. Under no circumstances.
The way you say some of that, Chris, I can tell you got some emotion coming out with it. So it's one of those old things that still sticks around with us that motivates us to do better, right?
I love this business. This is what I've done for a very long time. But there is nothing, when you have a conversation with somebody else and try and really express what it's like to work in a client's home, especially a very high-end client's home, and deal with those demands, it's really tough to articulate. if you've never been in that situation before, it is, Jayson says nobody dies on the operating table in CI. Well, there's definitely times where you feel like
there are deals that die in the foyers of many $1 million homes by the way you present yourself to your clients and the stuff that you present. There's definitely been a few drops of blood or tears or whatever spilled over some of that stuff for sure.
Right, and it's usually right on the travertine tile while they're looking.
Oh,
so.
Right, exactly. It's interesting through the years. I've been in the industry for, I want to say 23 years now. And when I first got into it, the only real part that was kind of more of a need than a want was the security side. And most of the other stuff was just a want, right? But as now we evolve and we get into whole home lighting control and shading with privacy, and through COVID, working from home and how important Wi-Fi speeds are, the needs have really amplified. So when things don't work properly, it's important. And that's what the clients want and expect. They want things to work, and they want their privacy, and they want to be able to have fun with it too and enjoy it. So it's nice to see people in the industry coming together to meet those needs. And it takes a team or even an army, like working with you guys, to work with the dealers as well and their whole teams to deliver on time, integrate with a lot of different products. Like it's a big ask. And that's what I love about this industry is we're all teaming up to deliver in a good quality way.
delivering things on time. That sounds like 2019 talking right there, Rich. That does not sound, that doesn't sound like the last few years from my personal experience. But I wanted to shift gears here a little bit. And although we still want to talk about SI, I'd like to just maybe put you on the spot a little bit. And it's a friendly spot. It's okay if you don't have a polished answer immediately. But if you could use this podcast or this platform as a megaphone and say one thing or a couple of things to all of the dealers all at once that were listening to this, what would you like to communicate with them? Like, what's the one or two little tidbits that are like, hey, we're Screen Innovations and I'm Rich Holien. I'm here to help.
Holien.
Yeah. Oh, I did it, didn't I? I did it.
I was waiting for it.
It was bound to happen. Holien. I'm Rich Holien, and I'm here to, like if you can use us as a platform or whatever broadcast, like there's a message that you wanted to deliver to all of us or to all of our dealers and even people that aren't our dealers. What do you think that message is? What does that sound like?
That is a good question. Friendly spot. I appreciate. So I would say something that gets overlooked in our industry on the front end that a lot of us are now focusing on is efficiencies. A lot of us will choose, and I say us as a dealer, will choose brands based off of people we like or quality or support. And a lot of that's very important. But efficiency is also really important. And my role at the integration company I was at had to do with efficiencies in a very heavy way. So when I saw what Screen Innovations had to offer and how it sped up the install process on site, this is a pain point, but a lot of dealers can probably relate that if they're actually tracking their numbers properly and seeing that they might be going over on hours on projects, that's just wasted money. And you don't want to overbid it because then you lose the project. So there's a fine balance there. So when you can find products that can meet efficiency levels too, that's a win. So for me, when I got my eyes on Screen Innovation shades, of course, the screens have been great for a long time and the brand's been well known. When I got my hands and eyes on the shades and saw how well a project was able to be deployed, my mind was blown. And I'm like, this is a game changer. This is going to change the shading industry significantly. And so while SI had kinks getting started, I mean, we're a young shading company just launching shades in 2019.
Great time.
We've had our fair share of issues and some dealers have really experienced that. So I would say now, fast forward to 2024, we got Kim Parker in the CEO seat, Jerry Calder is the VP of sales. We've got some good muscle in some good spots and things have changed.
Pretty heavy hitters. Yeah. If you don't know who those names are, just, work the LinkedIn there, work the Googs real fast and you'll figure out who these dudes are. Definitely, some heavy hitters.
Yeah. So it's been fun to be a part of the team and help through the recovery process of getting through products that needed improvement. And now the stuff that I have put in my house and that I'm showing with dealers, I'm confident and the whole team is confident and just ease of use, I think is the big subject. And if you haven't looked in a while, give SI another look.
Well, yeah. I mean, I could definitely say that it is very difficult when you're speccing out a job to, that is a lot of pressure in itself as well. Like I've been in a specifier seat, I've been in a estimator seat, whatever. And looking at a project when it's completely abstract and, you can see, okay, I have 38 windows that need shades or whatever. When you're trying to figure out how long those things take, because you're trying to figure out how much labor to charge, that always factors in. It's like, well, okay, so we can do these, but they're going to be a lot harder. Okay, if this is a dual roll with a pocket and all these other things, that's okay. We need to factor this up by about 5, or we need to, get in here and, being able to work with lines that provided a more efficient, a more efficient installation, or even, provided better training for our techs, right? So that we could make sure that all of our techs know how to do this stuff as dialed in as they possibly can. I mean, it's super important. I mean, you could absolutely lose your shirt on a project just by, hey, this thing spiraled out of control. My engineer didn't factor in how big this thing was going to be. So now I need to get a guy on site with a bandsaw to cut down a pocket or whatever it is. Like, these things all really add up. And to speak to your point about the efficiencies of it, it's it's of paramount importance, right? So you're always going to walk that line between whether you're specifying enough, whether you're going to specify what in your head is enough, and you're going to slide that proposal across the table, and your client's going to say, it's 300 hours for this. What, are you crazy? And then you're going to have to go into the art of, hey, explaining, like, well, I listen, I know that all you do is lay by the pool all day, so maybe you don't have an understanding of what this labor costs, but
yeah.
See, in this world, there's actually people who, might have to get on a ladder and, might have to do this. And, that's the kind of thing that it is, you always need to charge for what you're doing. Like, don't leave it on the table, right? You need to make your payroll. You need to charge people for the skill that they're bringing to it, and being able to line it up efficiently with good brands who provide, devices that are easy to install and who will fully train guys on how to install them. Yeah, that you can't understate the value in that.
Yeah. And I tell dealers when I'm on the road all the time, we're like the AV integrator shade company because of how easy it is to order on our Flow website, and how easy it is to deploy, and the integration. As soon as I got C4 here in the house, Control 4, so got everything on the network, and it just learned right in. I'm like, okay, this is nice. This is going to help speed things up significantly.
Yeah, it's you mentioned Flow, and I think that was one of the big, for me, for you guys. I know that's kind of where Ryan started originally, was a software program to design screens and stuff like that. But what that is kind of morphed into Frankenstein's monster, with being able to pick different materials, different fabrics, put in all of the depths and the detail for your shading job, and to have, again, the design services team that you've got on your end being able to kind of check your work. I think for integrators out there, you got narrow windows of time that you can focus on a lot of these things, right? It's so great to just be able to say, here's my plans. Here's what I've got. I've got my sales rep that I can use as a resource, but there's actually people at this factory where I'm going to order this stuff from that will help me make sure that everything is input correctly. All I have to do is check their work against what I'm doing and click OK, and it's ordered. Those are, in terms of efficiencies that you're spelling out, and that's a great way to put it, Rich. That's a fantastic call.
Yeah. I'm glad you talk about design services too, because I love bragging about those guys. I used them when I built out my own shade project on my house, and it talking about confidence and efficiencies on the front side. That team will help you build confidence on your order and your project. So when you click the submit button, you feel good about it. And a lot of these people are getting into shading because they're starting to see that it's a necessary thing to stay relevant in the industry. And as the economy kind of changes, some of the wants kind of go down, and shading, while it might be kind of a want, it can also be a little more necessary than maybe the theater is. So getting into it as a new dealer and having the confidence that they can support you on that front end and being able to click that submit button, it's a huge help.
Yeah. So if you don't know what we're talking about, please check out the Screen Innovations website. There's a link on there to become a dealer. So it'll send us an email, and we'll be able to reach out to you and talk to you about what that opportunity looks like. You'll have access to our team. You'll have access to Mr. Holien, who is the director de jour for the West. So, again, this is a people business, and we want to make sure that part of this podcast talks about, the people in the industry, the people that you're talking to, the people that you can connect to. So one thing I wanted to also do here is, again, we like to switch gears a lot on this podcast. It's a manual transmission, but there's no clutch. It's just really abrupt, just bam, right into
slam it right into the gate.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the guy that is Rich Holien. Like, we've talked, you're an industry dude. You've been around for 20 plus years in the industry. So obviously you've compounded maybe one bad decision with several others afterwards, but look at where you are now.
Just like the rest of us.
It's kind of the deal. But like what's your jam, Rich? You into music? You into food? You into travel? Like give us kind of the Rich Holien story. We'd like to know a little bit more about you.
All of the, I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. All of the above. Outdoors. I love the outdoors. I've been backpacking all out lately because it's easy to do. There's a lot near me, and it's nice to get out there and just have a completely change of pace. And I usually am running from cell service, so that's probably part of it too.
I'm aware
Smart.
of that.
Yeah,
I used to send emails in my Sony days like, look, I'm going to drive right to the edge of cell phone service and go one step beyond that, so you won't be able to reach me. So I can relate to that.
Yeah. But no, I love music. I've always loved music. I played the drums when I was younger. I was a DJ in a band, and made music on computer programs for a long time. And then when I taught my brother how to do it and he got much better at it than me, I thought that I would go learn how to install speakers because I loved listening to music. And that's kind of what guided me into the industry. It was kind of a slower start into the industry with selling big screen TVs at Sears as just kind of a job. And then the girl I was dating at the time, her brother had a company pre-wiring homes for sound and security and all these things. And I'm like, that sounds like a lot more fun than what I'm doing now, standing in a department store waiting for people to come in and buy TVs.
With a suit on. Ugh.
That's a pretty common thread, and it's kind of funny. You touched on like a phrase. It's like, well, it seemed more fun than what I was doing, and we've heard that from a lot of people who we've talked to. Is, I was crawling under dashboards, and that seemed like it was a lot more fun than what I was doing. Or
the Jayson Savage story is what you just told right there.
Oh yeah, I mean the car audio too. A lot of us had to start there, and that was a hobby for me at first at like 16, and then Sears was 17, and then pre-wiring homes was 18, and then I kind of got anchored in, as I should say.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. there's man, it's all callbacks. It all comes back around, right? It all comes back around. So when you're out there traveling, Rich, you're a travelman. There's a lot of people that will listen to this and go, man, I haven't been to Arizona, or I haven't been to some of these places in the West that Rich has been, but I'm going. What's the go-to food spot? What's the jam out there? What's your favorite? Like when you think, oh, I can't wait to go here and eat XYZ. What is that?
Oh man, you got me. There's so many good places out here.
The answer is Southern Kitchen in Tacoma, Washington. Come on, buddy.
Yeah, this is our ulterior motive here. Is we're gonna compile a list and travel book.
It's tough because I like ramen. I like seafood. I like so many different things. So Seattle did have a really good spot. Excuse me. I'm thinking about food now, getting all saliva.
Yeah, you're hungry, right?
Close.
We went to, I think, Anthony's out there.
We did, yeah.
Great. And then we had a couple other suggestions that we didn't make it to, but I was informed that we should have gone to some other places out there. So Southern California, the mecca that is Los Angeles, there's so much good food out there, and so many unique styles. So it's hard to speak on just individual experiences, because I look back and think about what it took to not bring that weight with me home, and maybe I had to work it off on the gym when I got back and recover from it. But yeah, there's way too much good food.
Just too many to choose from. Okay, well, I did my best to plug my local guys here, because backstory is that's where Rich and I went and had dinner for the first time, which is like a Southern soul food restaurant here in the Hilltop area of Tacoma. And yeah, it's got all of the church cookout goodness that you can imagine, collard greens and all of my favorite Southern stuff. So.
As the guy who wasn't
fried chicken I've had in a long time.
They are pros at that for sure. What did you say, Chris?
As the guy who wasn't involved to this little powwow, what did you guys actually have?
They did fried chicken. I think I did chicken fried steak just because I really wanted I wanted to die immediately after after eating that, because there's nothing better than taking a hamburger patty and batter frying it.
Yeah.
Just gonna throw that out there. With the little chicken fried skin on the outside, like not so bad. But yeah, next time we get you up to Tacoma here, Chris, we'll take you and give you the shakedown tour. But when we get Rich out here, now I've got to really up the game, I guess, to figure out what the next restaurant choice du jour is going to be.
I mean, there's definitely, I know in Seattle, ramen, right? Like there's a big ramen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We're gonna take him out to we'll take him out to Bellevue where they don't speak English, and we'll order from pictures. That's really the spot to go to. I don't know what that is, but I want an F or whatever. Give me an F. That'd be fantastic.
There was a place in Southern California, I think it was called Uno, and it was a sushi place. And again, no English on the menu, no English speaking barely in the restaurant. And I had some of the best sushi I've had in a long time. I was super impressed.
Yeah, there's no shortage of good sushi in SoCal. That is for sure.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't go wrong between burritos and sushi. That might just anchor me here for the rest of my life. Is those two things.
You're not going to be stuck there, Chris. You're going to be anchored, buddy. I love it. If we've established anything on this episode, it's that anchored is the preferred word,
right?
For being somewhere for a long time,
dragging you to the bottom, right?
Exactly.
If we complete the analogy.
So we're running up against here on our timeline, but I just wanted to take a chance first and foremost, obviously, to thank you for joining us on this cast. And we've asked you, what would you like to say as a megaphone? Is there any other parting shots or any parting wisdom you'd like to share with the audience about Screen Innovations, about Rich Holien or the two the knuckleheads that are hosting this podcast with you?
I kind of hinted at it earlier, but when I'm traveling, if there's a good spot, especially on the coast that has oysters, let's go. Sign me up. That's always a good one.
Never threaten me with a good time, sir. You that is noted for our next travel together.
But some excitement around Screen Innovations is innovation. It's right in the name, and watching it and being a part of it and seeing some of the new things come out and the new things that are about to come out that I'm not supposed to be talking about. The excitement that gets built up around that. It's definitely something to watch. Some of the new ads in the screen space that we've brought in have been a great hit, and it just proves that innovation, that continued innovation. And also in the shade side, I know we've had our nano product for quite some time, and now with some of the innovations that are coming next, I think it'll make a big splash in the industry and get a lot more eyes looking back at SI.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have a full line as far as ways to control things, different form factors, screens, indoor, outdoor shades. Like it's vast, and it's great. And you guys tie it all together with flow, make it nice and easy. It's a great product.
A complete ecosystem that's all made by SI now. So there's no hodgepodge. It's all right from the factory. I think that's a really exciting update. So again, if you haven't taken a look at Screen Innovations in the last while here, maybe you have one impression of the company and you haven't looked at it in a while. I definitely think it's worth the time to have a look, and again, reach out to your local Oliver marketing rep in the Pacific Northwest or in Northern California to get connected to Rich, to get connected to the energy and excitement and innovation that they're talking about here. Obviously this is an industry cast, so we're doing a little bit of schlepping, right? We're out here to move some boxes, but ultimately we're out here to build connections to the channel so that when you are at these shows and you are walking around the booths and stuff, you have a reference for, hey, this is the person that's in my territory, and these two goofs were telling me all about it. So I'm going to disregard what they had to say, but I want to connect with Rich and hear what he's got to say and maybe what that can do for my business. So I think with that, we're going to go ahead and sign off here. But again, thank you from all of us here at Oliver Marketing and the Inside Integration Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Jayson Savage, Mr. Chris Barlo, and our guest here, Mr. Rich Holien, would like to thank you all for paying attention and listening to us, and looking forward to catching you on the next one. Take care, everybody.
Take care.